The impossible challenge. The grand chamber of the Galactic Conclave buzzed with murmurs as Commander Elena Reyes stepped onto the speaking platform. As Earth's representative to this ancient assembly of spacefaring civilizations, she understood the gravity of the moment. Humanity had only joined the Conclave 30 years ago, making them infants compared to species that measured their histories in millennia. Distinguished representatives, Elena began, her voice steady despite the tension knotting her stomach. I present Earth's proposal for Operation Nightshade, a planetary shield system capable of deflecting gamma radiation, bursts up to Class 9 intensity. On the massive holographic display behind her, technical schematics materialized, showing a network of orbital platforms generating an energy field that could encompass an entire planet. The murmurs grew louder as the alien delegates examined the proposal. High Ambassador Drix of the Thelan Confederation, an insectoid being whose species had achieved spaceflight when humans were still learning agriculture, clicked his mandibles skeptically. Commander Reyes, while we appreciate humanity's enthusiasm, what you propose violates fundamental principles of physics. Our civilization has studied radiation shields for 12,000 years. What you describe would require energy densities that would collapse into singularities. Elena had expected this reaction. With respect, Ambassador, our scientists believe we found a way to stabilize the field using quantum resonance technology. The chamber erupted in dismissive chatter. From the elevated Praetor's platform, Supreme Adjudicator Oram, a being of translucent crystalline structure, raised a glittering appendage for silence. The Conclave appreciates Earth's contribution, Oram's melodic voice echoed. However, we have already determined that evacuation protocols are the only viable response to the approaching silent death. The radiation burst from the collapsing neutron star will reach Earth's region in approximately 782 of your days. We have allocated evacuation ships sufficient for 8% of your population, which exceeds the standard ratio for emergent species. 8%, just over 700 million people. The rest, over 8 billion, would perish when the gamma-ray burst swept through Earth's solar system, stripping away the atmosphere and sterilizing the planet's surface. The Conclave considered this generous. Most species facing extinction received evacuation assistance for only 5%. We require no vote on this matter, Oram continued. The laws of physics are not subject to democratic process. Elena gripped the podium. Earth respectfully requests the right to pursue our own solution alongside evacuation preparations. You may, of course, allocate your resources as you wish, Oram replied, a hint of pity in the harmonics of its voice. But we strongly advise against false hope. As Elena left the chamber, Ambassador Drix approached, his compound eyes reflecting prismatic light. Commander, my species once faced extinction from cosmic radiation. We too believed we could engineer our way out of natural law. The results were catastrophic. Please, accept reality. Save those you can. Thank you for your concern, Ambassador, Elena replied diplomatically. But accepting impossibility isn't in our nature. The emergency session of Earth's Unified Defense Council was chaotic, with representatives from every continent arguing over the Conclave's decision. We should accept their evacuation offer and focus on maximizing the number of ships, insisted Councilor Park of the Pacific Alliance. The lottery system is already being implemented. We can't waste resources on a technological fantasy. Elena stood before the council, flanked by Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, Earth's foremost quantum physicist, and Dr. Liam Chen, whose work on experimental energy systems had earned him as many detractors as admirers. The Conclave's evacuation plan is our fallback, Elena stated, but I'm not ready to surrender Earth to cosmic fire without a fight. Dr. Kapoor, please explain. Sanjay stepped forward, activating a holographic model. The aliens aren't wrong about conventional shields, but they're thinking linearly. Our approach uses quantum entanglement to distribute the shield's energy load across millions of microsingularities, each lasting only nanoseconds, but collectively creating a stable field. And the power requirements? Asked Counselor Mickey of the African Federation. Dr. Chen smiled. That's where my harmonic fusion reactor comes in. It generates power by exploiting dimensional resonance, something the conclave species consider theoretical, but which we've successfully prototyped. Counselor Volkov of the Eurasian Collective scoffed. Your prototype nearly vaporized the Moscow Institute 3 years ago. A learning experience, Chen replied, unfazed. Science advances through failure. After hours of debate, the council voted, by a margin of just 2 votes, to allocate resources to Project Nightshade, while continuing evacuation preparations. Alina was named project director, with 750 days to accomplish what the oldest spacefaring civilizations deemed impossible. The installation on Luna's far side grew rapidly from a small research outpost to a sprawling complex of domes, laboratories, and testing grounds. Alina had assembled a team of Earth's most brilliant minds, many considered too radical or unorthodox by mainstream scientific institutions. Dr. Amara Okafor, whose theories on quantum field manipulation had been rejected by academic journals as mathematical fiction, led the SHIELD design team. Dr. Jae-hoon Park, dismissed from 3 research institutions for unsafe experimental practices, headed power systems development. 5 months in, progress was steady but slow. The quantum resonance stabilizers worked in small-scale tests, but failed catastrophically when scaled up. The team worked around the clock, the silent countdown to Earth's extinction dragging them to exhaustion. We're missing something fundamental, Sanjay admitted during a late-night strategy session. His normally immaculate appearance had given way to disheveled hair and wrinkled clothes. The field collapses at exactly 37% of required strength. The Thelen ambassador wasn't wrong, Alina said, studying the latest test results. The energy wants to collapse into singularities. Liam Chen, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly straightened. What if we don't fight that tendency? What do you mean? Amara asked, looking up from her calculations. We've been trying to prevent singularity formation, Chen said, eyes bright with realization. What if instead we control it? Create intentional microsingularities as energy sinks at precise points in the field matrix. The room fell silent as the implications settled. That's, Sanjay began, completely insane. Is it? Jae-hoon countered, already running simulations. The math actually supports it. Look. He projected a new model showing a lattice of quantum nodes, each briefly becoming a controlled singularity point before dissolving. If we precisely time the formation and collapse cycle, Amara said slowly, we could create a stable energy wave that would deflect the gamma burst around the planet instead of trying to block it. Alina finished, hope rising for the first time in months. Chen grinned. Exactly. We don't stop the unstoppable. We sidestep it. 2 days later, Alina received an unexpected visitor. Zolix, a junior attaché from the Thelen embassy, requested a private meeting. Ambassador Zurix doesn't know I'm here, the young Thelen admitted, nervously grooming his antennae. But I've been reviewing your team's published data. Your approach to quantum resonance is unlike anything I've seen. Some of our younger scientists believe your controlled singularity concept merits further study. Does that mean the conclave might reconsider their position? Alina asked. Zolix's mandibles clicked in what Alina had learned was the Thelen equivalent of a sad smile. No. The consensus remains that your project will fail. But, he hesitated, I've brought something that might help. From a secure container, Zolix removed a crystalline device. This is a quantum field visualizer. It's considerably more advanced than your current instruments and might help you identify instabilities in your prototype. Alina stared at the illegal technology transfer, a serious violation of conclave law. Why are you doing this? Because 12,000 years ago, when the Thelens faced extinction, we too refused to accept impossibility. We failed, but His compound eyes shimmered. "I find myself hoping you won't." The visualizer revolutionized their work. Within weeks, they identified the precise harmonic frequency needed to maintain field stability. Small-scale tests achieved 60% strength without collapse. For the first time, Alina allowed herself to believe they might actually succeed. Then the conclave sent an official observer. Adjudicator Tlon arrived without warning. A towering being of translucent membrane and glowing internal organs the humans found difficult to look at directly. As a member of the ancient Mithrai species, Tlon had personally witnessed the rise and fall of over 30 civilizations. "The conclave is concerned about your progress," Tlon stated, voice resonating from multiple speaking membranes. "Your experiments with controlled quantum singularities violate safety protocols established after the Proxima disaster." Elena maintained her composure. "We're well within safety parameters for experimental physics." "You misunderstand," Tlon interrupted. "The Proxima disaster wasn't merely an accident. It was an attempt by the Proxima species to achieve exactly what you now pursue, a controlled network of micro-singularities. They believed, as you do, that they had discovered a loophole in cosmic law. The resulting cascade wiped out their entire solar system." The revelation sent a chill through the command center. Elena hesitated only briefly. "We appreciate the warning. Adjudicator, we'll review our safety protocols accordingly." "Commander Reyes." Tlon's voice softened to something almost like compassion. "I understand your species' attachment to your homeworld. But the universe doesn't bend to determination alone. The evacuation ships are your people's future. Focus on that reality." After Tlon departed, Elena called an emergency meeting with her core team. "Did any of you know about this Proxima disaster?" she asked. Sanjay nodded grimly. "It's mentioned in Conclave scientific archives, but with minimal details. We've been operating under the assumption that our approach is fundamentally different." "Is it?" Elena pressed. "Yes," Amara insisted. "The visualizer showed us precisely where the Proxima method would have failed. Our distributed network approach solves the cascade problem by—" A technician burst into the room. "Commander, you need to see this." On the main screen, a massive solar flare erupted from Earth's sun, far larger than anything in recorded history. "The neutron star collapse has begun," Jai-Hoon whispered. "Its gravitational waves are already affecting our solar system." Elena checked the countdown clock. 512 days remaining. "The models predicted we'd have more time," Sanjay said, his voice tight. "Then we'll have to work faster," Elena replied, already calculating the accelerated timeline in her head. "Liam, how soon can we test a full-scale prototype?" Chen's expression was grim but determined. "With round-the-clock work and assuming no major failures." 60 days. "Make it 45, Elena ordered. "The universe doesn't bend to determination alone, but humanity has never been very good at accepting the universe's terms." As alarms sounded throughout the base, the team dispersed to their stations. Elena remained alone for a moment, staring at the image of the solar flare, the first visible harbinger of Earth's potential doom. The impossible deadline had just become even more impossible, but something in Elena's core, the same something that had driven humans to cross oceans, fly through skies, and reach for stars, refused to accept defeat. If the laws of physics wouldn't bend, humanity would just have to find a way around them. Defiance and triumph. The Luna facility transformed into a hive of relentless activity. Sleep became a luxury as the 45-day countdown to prototype testing ticked away. Officials from Earth's governments arrived almost daily, their initial support giving way to skepticism as they witnessed the enormity of the challenge. "The evacuation lottery is causing civil unrest," General Williams of the North American Alliance informed Elena during an inspection tour. "People want to know they have a chance at survival beyond the 8% the Conclave offered. Then tell them that number is about to become 100%, Elena replied, leading him through a laboratory where engineers were assembling quantum resonance nodes. Williams stopped, his weathered face showing both concern and pity. "Elena, I've known you since the academy. You're brilliant, determined. But this, he gestured at the prototype components. This might be beyond even humanity's capacity. The Unified Council is considering redirecting all resources to evacuation. They would be making a mistake, Alina stated firmly. Maybe. But consider this. What if you're wrong? What if we sacrifice evacuation preparations for a shield that fails? We could lose everything. Alina had no simple answer. The risk was real, and the burden of it kept her awake during her brief rest periods. But humanity had always progressed by reaching beyond known limitations. 2 more weeks, General. That's all I ask. If our full-scale test fails, I'll personally recommend shifting all resources to evacuation. Williams studied her face, then nodded reluctantly. 2 weeks. As he departed, Alina's communications implant chimed with an urgent message from Dr. Okafor. Commander, we have a problem with the quantum lattice. You need to see this immediately. In the central testing chamber, Amara displayed a holographic simulation showing the quantum field lattice collapsing at 83% capacity. We've hit another roadblock, Amara explained, frustration evident in her voice. The singularity points are stable individually, but when linked in the full configuration, they create a harmonic resonance that amplifies exponentially. Translation: the system would tear itself apart before reaching operational capacity, Sanjay added. Alina studied the simulation. There must be a way to dampen the resonance. We've tried everything, Jai-Hoon said, his usual confidence missing. The math simply doesn't work. Silence fell over the team, the weight of impending failure heavy in the air. Then, unexpectedly, Adjudicator Tlon spoke from the doorway. Perhaps, the alien observer said, you need to consider that mathematics is not merely universal but multiversal. All heads turned toward the Mithrai, who had been quietly observing their work for weeks. What do you mean? Elena asked cautiously. Tlon glided forward, gelatinous body pulsing with bioluminescence. The Proxima approached this problem from a perspective of singular dimensional mathematics. Their failure was not in concept, but in dimensional constraint. Liam Chen's eyes widened. You're suggesting we need to incorporate multidimensional harmonics. I am suggesting nothing, Tlon replied, membranous wings flexing. Merely observing that your species often finds solutions where others see only barriers. The Conclave's position remains unchanged. After Tlon departed, the team huddled together. Was the Adjudicator actually helping us? Amara asked incredulously. Not officially, Alina said, a smile forming. But I think we just received the closest thing to encouragement that Conclave protocol allows. Chen was already working furiously on a new set of equations, multidimensional harmonics. Yes, if we modify the quantum resonance to phase between dimensional states at precisely calculated intervals. The resonance wouldn't amplify because it would essentially be redistributing across dimensional boundaries, Sanjay completed, excitement building in his voice. Jai-Hoon laughed, the sound surprising in the tense atmosphere. We'd be using the entire multiverse as a heat sink. That's either genius or madness. In human history, Alina noted, those have often been the same thing. The modified design progressed rapidly. When the day of the full-scale test arrived, representatives from Earth's governments gathered in the observation deck. Among them stood Adjudicator Tlon, and surprisingly, Ambassador Zrix of the Thelans. Ambassador, Alina greeted him. I didn't expect to see you here. Zrix's mandibles clicked softly. Officially, I am documenting a potential violation of Conclave safety protocols. Unofficially, he hesitated, compound eyes shifting. I find myself curious about human persistence in the face of established impossibility. The test began with the activation of Chen's harmonic fusion reactor. Power levels built steadily as Amara initiated the quantum field generators. Holographic displays showed the forming shield, a gossamer web of energy extending outward from the test platform. 20% capacity, Jai-Hoon announced. Field stability nominal. 30%, Sanjay reported moments later. Quantum resonance holding steady. At 50%, a minor fluctuation caused momentary alarm, but the system automatically adjusted, redistributing energy across dimensional boundaries as designed. 70%. Amara called out, her voice tense with concentration, approaching the previous failure threshold. The chamber fell completely silent as the power levels pushed past 80%. A faint shimmer became visible around the test platform as the quantum field strengthened. 90%. Elena held her breath. 95%. The air seemed to vibrate with potential energy. 100% capacity achieved. Field stability at 98.7%. The room erupted in cheers. Elena allowed herself a moment of elation before focusing on the readings. Begin the radiation simulation. A focused beam of gamma radiation, a fraction of what the neutron star would produce, but still powerful enough to vaporize unshielded matter, fired toward the test platform. As designed, the quantum shield didn't block the radiation. It bent space around the platform, causing the beam to curve around it before continuing on its original path. The platform remained completely untouched. "It works," Sanjay whispered, disbelief and joy warring in his voice. "It actually works." General Williams stepped forward, his earlier skepticism replaced with cautious optimism. How quickly can this be scaled up to planetary size? With global cooperation and resources. 4 months, Chen estimated. The neutron star radiation will reach us in approximately 457 days, Elena added. "We have time." "Barely." Ambassador Zerk's approach, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking softly as he moved. "Remarkable achievement, Commander Reyes. However, scaling from a test platform to planetary coverage presents exponentially greater challenges." "We're aware of the difficulties, Ambassador," Elena replied. "But we've overcome the fundamental theoretical obstacles." "So the Proxima believed as well," Adjudicator Tlon interjected, floating closer. "Their test succeeded perfectly. The catastrophe occurred during full deployment." Elena met the alien's gaze steadily. "With respect, Adjudicator, we've incorporated multidimensional harmonics that the Proxima couldn't have conceived of. Our approach is fundamentally different." "Perhaps," Tlon conceded, "bioluminescent patterns fluctuating. The Conclave will observe your deployment with great interest. If, against all historical precedent, you succeed, it would represent a significant advancement in our understanding of cosmic law." As the aliens departed, General Williams turned to Elena. "Was that an endorsement?" "The closest we'll get," she replied with a slight smile. "Let's not disappoint them." The global deployment of Project Nightshade proceeded at unprecedented speed. Orbital platforms were constructed simultaneously in facilities around the world. The international cooperation was remarkable. Nations that had been rivals for centuries now worked in perfect synchronization toward humanity's survival. 400 days before projected impact, the first series of quantum shield generators achieved lunar orbit. 350 days before impact, the network expanded to encompass key points throughout Earth's orbit. Testing proceeded in stages, each successful phase building confidence. Then, disaster struck. During the first full-power test of the orbital network, a cascade failure in the Australian control center triggered a power surge through the entire system. 3 orbital platforms were destroyed instantly. The quantum field collapsed, and for a few terrifying moments, a singularity formed in low Earth orbit before the emergency protocols dissolved it. 17 engineers died. Public confidence plummeted, and the Unified Council convened an emergency session to reconsider the evacuation option. Elena stood before them, exhausted but resolute. "The failure has been identified and corrected. The mathematical models remain sound." Sound mathematics didn't save 17 lives. Counselor Volkov stated bluntly. "Perhaps the Conclave was right. Perhaps some barriers cannot be overcome." "With respect, Counselor," Elena replied, "that's not who we are. Humanity has always pushed beyond known limitations. We didn't stop flying after the first plane crashed. We didn't abandon space exploration after the first rocket exploded. We learn, we adapt, we overcome. And if we fail? Counselor Mbeki asked quietly. Then we will have failed trying to save everyone, not just the privileged few selected for evacuation. Elena answered. I believe that matters. After intense debate, the council voted once more, this time unanimously, to continue the project. In the following months, the SHIELD network was rebuilt with enhanced safeguards. As the countdown dropped below 200 days, an unexpected development occurred. Alien vessels began arriving in Earth orbit. Not just conclave observers, but ships from dozens of species across the galaxy. Some offered technical assistance, others merely watched. Word had spread through the galactic community about the humans who refused to accept the impossible. 100 days before projected impact, the completed Nightshade network underwent its final test. This time, Elena insisted on being at the primary control center in orbit. Begin activation sequence, she ordered, monitoring the holographic display showing the global network. One by one, the quantum generators powered up, creating localized fields that gradually merged into a continuous web surrounding Earth. Power levels rose steadily, 50%, 70%, 90%. All systems nominal, Sanjay reported. Multidimensional harmonics stable, 100% capacity achieved. Amara announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Planetary shield is active and stable. A cheer erupted throughout the control center, but Elena remained focused. Initiate radiation simulation. From a safe distance, automated platforms fired concentrated beams of gamma radiation toward Earth from multiple directions. On the display, the beams approached the quantum shield and then curved around the planet's outline before continuing into space. The shield didn't just work, it performed beyond their most optimistic projections. As the test concluded successfully, a communication came through from Adjudicator Tlon. The Conclave acknowledges your remarkable achievement, the alien's resonant voice declared. What you have done was deemed impossible by the collected wisdom of 1,000 spacefaring civilizations. We find ourselves reconsidering certain assumptions. Elena allowed herself a smile. Thank you, Adjudicator. Humanity has a saying. Impossible is just a word people use to make themselves feel better when they quit. An interesting perspective, Tlon replied. Perhaps there is more for us to learn from your species than we anticipated. 56 days before the predicted arrival of the gamma-ray burst, Earth's sensors detected the neutron star's final collapse. The resulting explosion was visible even in daylight, a new star briefly outshining all others. Humanity waited, shield generators humming at full capacity, as the invisible wave of deadly radiation approached at light speed. In the orbital command center, Elena and her team monitored the shield network. Tensions ran high, but there was also a strange calm, the serenity that comes with having done everything possible to face an overwhelming challenge. Radiation front approaching, Jai-Hum announced. Impact in 5 minutes. Elena opened a global channel. This is Commander Reyes. The gamma-ray burst will reach Earth in approximately 5 minutes. All shield generators are functioning at optimal levels. We have every reason to believe the Nightshade system will perform as designed. Around the planet, billions of people looked up at the sky, some in fear, others in hope, all united in this moment of cosmic truth. 1 minute to impact, Sanjay called out. Elena stood straight, eyes fixed on the displays. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats throughout our history. Each time, we've survived not by accepting limitations, but by transcending them. Whatever happens next, remember this: we refuse to surrender. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The sensors registered an enormous spike in radiation as the gamma-ray burst reached Earth's orbital space. The quantum shield activated instantly, bending space around the planet. For several tense minutes, the deadly radiation flowed around Earth's protective bubble, like a river around a stone. When it was over, When the instruments confirmed the radiation had passed, a moment of stunned silence fell over the command center. Then, jubilation erupted, not just in orbit, but across the entire planet. Humanity had faced cosmic fire and emerged unscathed. In the following days, the conclave convened a special session. For the first time in its ancient history, a new category was created in its hierarchical structure: innovator species. Earth was the first to receive this designation. Ambassador Zrix approached Elena after the ceremony. "You have changed the equation, Commander. Many species consider themselves superior to humans because of our longer histories and established technologies. Now we find ourselves re-examining that assumption." "We never set out to prove anything," Elena replied honestly. "We just wanted to save our home." "Perhaps that is the most important lesson." Zrix's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "In refusing to accept the impossible, you've expanded what's possible for all of us." As Earth rebuilt the Nightshade network into a permanent defense system, alien vessels continued to arrive, no longer as observers, but as students and collaborators. The technology that had saved one world held promise for countless others. The neutron star that had threatened Earth's destruction had ironically become the catalyst for humanity's leap to the forefront of galactic innovation. Where older civilizations had accepted cosmic barriers as immutable, humans had found a way through, not by defying the laws of physics, but by understanding them more deeply. In the years that followed, Earth became a center for theoretical physics and dimensional research. The species that had once been dismissed as naive newcomers were now sought after for their unique perspective on the universe's most challenging problems. "They said it couldn't be done" became a rallying cry for human scientists tackling new frontiers. Each time the conclave declared something impossible, Earth's brightest minds took it as a challenge rather than a limitation. And throughout the galaxy, the story spread of the humans who stood at the edge of extinction, looked into the abyss of cosmic fire, and said with one voice, "Not today."